Hey, it's Rod Yates. Welcome to another episode of Humans of Music, a Jaxsta podcast. Each episode I talk to a music creator or industry professional about their life and career, the ups and downs of their journey, and the lessons they've learned. And my special guest today is Third Eye Blind founder and frontman, Stephan Jenkins. Third Eye Blind are about to hit the road in the US promoting their latest album, Our Bande Apart, while also commemorating 25 years since their multi-platinum self-titled debut, which yielded hits like Semi-Charmed Life and Jumper. So they're in this really interesting place. On the one hand, celebrating the past, while on the other, putting attention on the present and their new music. And I kicked off my chat with Stephan by asking whether that's a difficult tightrope to walk.
It's not, because I don't really see it that way. I see it as, it's not that we're celebrating our past, it's that we're celebrating kind of the totality and just marking a moment. You know, it's like a birthday. It's like we're 25 years old, and It doesn't mean that's not celebrating your past. It's taking a moment to take stock of being alive. So it's more that. I would say it's more akin to a birthday than it is for me than a look back.
So what does it mean to you then when you're putting together a set list for something like these shows then?
It's really difficult because so Rod, this is the problem. If we could do at the Summer Gods tour that we're doing this summer, the doors are at 6:30, and the first band, an Australian band, Hockey Dad, who I love, are coming over, and they're going to open, and they'll play till about 7:30, and then they'll do a set changeover at 8, and then Taking Back Sunday will play until about 8:45, and it takes 30 minutes to change the set over from that. So that puts us on stage at 9:15, and most of the curfews in these venues, because we like to play outside in the summer, are at 11 p.m. So that gives you an hour. That gives you an hour and 45 minutes, like on the dot. And if you go over, they either shut the power off or they give you these massive, massive fines. They really add up. Yeah. So we've been able to get 5 more minutes. We have an hour. We have an hour and 50 minutes to say, this is what Third Eye Blind is.
Yeah.
So my answer to your question is, we can't make a retrospective. It's impossible. I really tried.
Right.
I've tried to make a set list that goes, here's a retrospective of where we've been and where we are and where we're going. And I cannot do it.
So what can you do?
What can I do? Well, I've just kind of taken all the albums and I put in this kind of combination of favorites for people who are the people who are like, have the lawn, they're a little more casual.
Right.
Because when you're playing like 10,000 people, then some people know hits, and I am not opposed at all to playing hits. That's fine. I love seeing that come back in people's faces. And then there are the songs that really resonate, that were kind of deeper tracks, but they're foundational to people. And those are songs like Wounded, Motorcycle Drive-By, Palm Reader, things like that.
Sure.
And then there are songs like that go deeper than that ignite for somebody. It would be new for them, or it's a deeper track that people really carry, and that would be something like Red Star, tracks like that.
Right.
So there's that kind of combination. Then there is what's exciting us, and what excites us is what we're doing now. So Our Bande Apart, our current album, is my favorite album. And it's most of my records, I don't know, I feel a little uneasy listening to them because I hear some changes or I hear maybe something at the time. But Our Bande Apart is one that I really didn't overthink and I feel at peace with listening to.
Right.
And I feel very excited about sharing that. So that's it. There's the recipe, as best I can tell.
That's a lot to take into account.
Yeah, man, it's a lot. It's a lot. I go on and on.
So when you say that, because I've read you talking about Our Band Apart and saying it's your least reflexive record that you've ever done, is that what you mean just by not overthinking it?
Yeah. Yeah. We had an album before that we were going to go, that we had written and that we were going to go workshop on tour at Soundcheck. And then we were going to record it. And that tour sold out, super excited. And the pandemic happened and it got wiped out. And the songs felt like they didn't apply in the context of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't just go, oh, right, Johnny Tryhard's going to go write another record. I didn't do that at all. I did the same thing everybody else did, which is I kind of, found coping mechanisms in red wine and spaghetti and Twitter, and same as everybody else, and got very little done and just kind of held still and tried to get information. And then I started to kind of get into my process of writing in my journal and writing about things. It doesn't even need to be in lyrics, but just writing about stuff that provokes me in some way. And then I went out to my little Zen room and picked up my guitar and my notepad and started writing and playing. And the shapes of these songs began to come together. And I told my manager that I had these songs, and she said, just record them. Just make this album without any trying to make it into anything else. Don't judge or evaluate it. None of that stuff. Just go ahead and make it. So I went down to LA from San Francisco to this very kitchen here.
Right.
This is where it was, and started workshopping it at a time when we were all still wearing masks because we didn't have the vaccines yet. And there was never a moment where like, oh, should it be this, hemming and hawing, or any kind of second guessing.
Yeah.
And when we went in to play it, we would all play in the same room together. And if it felt good, then that was the take. No, like singling out a single track and like making sure it was writing or putting it into the computer and pitching and tuning and moving it. No like Apple MacBook Pro rock.
Right.
And that was it. That was the process. And from that, it feels it's a much closer rendering of my authentic self than I think I've been.
Yeah. So you've been guilty of second guessing and overthinking and on previous records, do you think? Have there been points in your career where you've been more guilty of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There have been times where I've gotten, I don't know, nervous or anxious about how is it going to get across? Am I a good producer? Does it have impact? Am I getting to the chorus quick enough? Oh God, just on and on and on.
Yeah.
And you can hear it because when I go back and try to make up the set list for the album, you can hear like, for example, on Screamer, I wanted some of the tracks to be like just kind of beat the shit out of other slick pop that was going on at the time. I wanted to beat them at their own game.
Right.
So I wanted to just have immediacy and impact and like, coming right at you. So Tropic Scorpio, Walk Like Kings. I think that there are some really, really cool kind of New Order-esque 80s grooves, melodies going on in there that it's like, just give it some room, bro. Let it breathe. Let it be what it is. And I didn't do that. So I actually will look forward to playing those songs live to give them another try.
Yeah.
So that's an example.
Constant learning, right? This far into your career, you're still learning.
Absolutely. I'm still learning. I'm still evaluating, and I'm still always sort of growing in the process.
You mentioned that when you started working in your notebook when the pandemic hit, and I guess, you got through the red wine and pasta phase and you started writing stuff down in your notebook that was provoking you. What was provoking you?
Oh, all kinds of different things. You can hear them in each of the songs. Goodbye to the days of ladies and gentlemen. By the way, my songs I never know what they are about. They're not essays. They are some kind of sense of self-discovery. I don't know. So my publicist makes fun of me and she goes, okay, put on your antenna to God and you just make your song. When things are really working well, there's sort of the quality of being a mystic, and that's not unique to me. I think that's
Sure.
kind of part of the process. That's a means of the process. So
Yeah.
you're hearing it. It's downloading to you from the ethers.
Mm.
So that song is these massive kinds of changes of gender roles in culture and how that's met. So goodbye to the days of ladies and gentlemen. What do we know?
Right.
Yeah.
So you find that your songs tend to appear to you a little bit further down the track, that you write it, you're not really conscious of what you're writing, but then maybe even years down the track, you'll go, that's where I was, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much so. Like at some level, my songs tell me who I am. And that's when that goes really well, that can have some real heavy magic in it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you have to trust it. You have to trust it. If you don't trust it and you try to make it into something, then whatever that little genie runs away. Yeah. And disappears on you. Yeah.
It sounds complex.
Yes, you have to. For songwriters out there, and there's probably a lot of songwriters who listen to this, my advice, if you want to hear it, is don't try to make good songs. Don't try to make bad songs. Just make your song and then make another one. Just keep making them.
When do you think you figured that out? When do you think you learned that?
I think I'm still learning it. I think I have to say it out loud. Yeah. You all thought I was saying that for you. I was saying that to me. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the great things about the Summer Gods tour is I believe that a certain amount of the proceeds are going to an organization called Sea Trees, which works to preserve the kelp reefs off the coast of California.
That's right.
And I know the ocean is very dear to you. And is it true that at some point you were actually a budding marine biologist around sort of college time?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do initially, but then OChem just really shut that down.
What's OChem?
Organic chemistry in Europe. Yeah, it's tough. That's that one. Ooh, buddy.
So that was it.
I think I realized at that point that I'd probably be a good marine biologist, but there's probably something out there for me where I could really get my potential into flow. And I think I realized that I was really a big fan of science more than a practitioner.
One of the things I've seen you talk about, the live experience that you love so much, is that connection that you get with the people in the audience. When you were in the audience growing up, who was? Can you remember the first time that you got that connection with someone on stage?
Yeah, I think the first time I went to a talent, I was in the 7th grade, and I went to a talent show, and some like 9th graders had put together a little band, and they played it at at the high school. And I got to go to the high school, and it was this really nice auditorium, and they played some rock song on stage, and I thought, I'm sure it was god awful, but I thought it was amazing. And I'd already been drumming since I was 10, and I was really quite good by the time I was in the 7th grade, and I was the first chair in the junior high school band, and I was showing some kind of promise as a musician. And I said right there, my goal is to be in a band with that guitarist. And and I did. I did. And he was older, 2 years older, and but we did get a band together. We had like a little punk band, and
awesome.
We played, and we actually played local clubs. And somebody at I grew up in Palo Alto, and somebody at Stanford made a video of us for their film project, and the video got played on MTV.
Really?
And that was all this. It was and so I was very, very into it. from a very early age. And all I wanted to do was be a drummer.
Yeah. Because your neighbor had a drum kit, is that right? And you'd just go over there and play?
And I had a green 1970 Rogers Holiday Londonier in sparkle green.
Cool.
And God, I think I have one drum left from that. Too bad. I just didn't know how valuable, what an heirloom that was. Yeah, that'll haunt you. Don't ever get rid of your old instruments. They will come back and haunt you. Old sweaters and old instruments. Keep them. So many pearls of wisdom here on this 25-year anniversary. Yeah.
But why drums? Was it the convenience that your neighbor had a drum kit, or was there something else that drew you towards rhythm?
No, I think I was deeply drawn towards rhythm, and I think that I had dyslexia, and my parents were getting divorced, and we had rent insecurity. So the kind of the bottom fell out, and there was food insecurity. So my whole world, school was a hot, humiliating experience, like a hot frustration that you feel when everybody else is rolling down this track and you're not on that track, and feeling left out like that. And I think my parents were just overwhelmed with their own struggles. So drums for me, which were kind of my rebellion. It's a kid playing a drum set in a house is a fucking racket, right?
Yes.
It's quite a thing. And I would play for hours and hours at a time. And I would do rudiments and read, and then I would pick songs. I would pick drummers that I loved, and I would try to play just like them. So I would sit there and try to play like Mick Fleetwood, Ringo Starr. I loved Blondie, Parallel Lines. I would play that over and over and over again. Prince, I play along with that. And Stuart Copeland, the Police, the first, and Clive Stubblefield, and then Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were my mentor drummers. And then there were other drummers which I had no interest in at all. Kids were like, they loved Neil Peart. They thought, right? That was like the greatest thing, and I had no interest in that. Da 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 da. I don't know. So those were the things that really compelled me, and I would play and play and play. I loved ska music, so I would do ska beats and reggae beats and funk beats and playing fast and just play and play and play. And the reason, this is back to your question, why drums? Well, I told you about all these difficulties with school wasn't holding together. My family was falling apart, holding everything into a rhythm with independence. So in drumming, for those of you who aren't drummers, your right foot does something from your left foot. So they're both doing different things independent of each other. And your right hand and your left hand are doing something independent of each other. So what you're doing is you're taking all of these different things and you are bringing them together into a rhythm. You're bringing them into an orbit. So for that time, while you are drumming, no matter what all the other things that are out of sync and out of control in your life, you are in control. You are in rhythm. You are in balance.
Wow.
And that is enough to keep me going 4 hours a day, every day. And that was enough to get me the 10,000 hours to where I was a professional grade musician by the time I graduated high school.
So, I mean, is there residual trauma from all those things happening at school? Is that something that you clearly dealt with for years after, if you're still drumming and guitar enters the equation at some point as well? So is there that trauma doesn't get sorted quickly?
No, it's all better now. Everything's just fine. Yeah. No. You never. Yeah, there's no getting over any of those kinds of things. There's just integrating it into your life and having awareness of it and being in relationship with the things that you experience. Yeah. So I'm certainly a very happy person, and whoever that little boy was, that is me, is taken care of and protected, and yeah, because whoever that person that you were, that that a 6-year-old boy that I was, is still there. Like it's not dead. It's you, and those points where you become severed from yourself, when you walk away from yourself. I think the process that we go through is to go back and kind of re-knit yourself together. And one of the methods for doing that is music. It's one of the reasons why we listen to music, because in the things in us that are broken, that are wounded, music makes them so that those wounds can be handled. Yeah. That the unspeakable and the overwhelming can be actually not only managed, but in an exalted way. It's pretty magical shit.
When did writing music become that for you? Was there a moment where you actually did write a song and you put your thoughts onto page and you got that outlet from it?
Well, I don't know the very first moment that happened. I know the first song I wrote when I was playing in other bands and other things, and I said, I'm going to do my own project, and I'm going to do, I want to do rock music, but on my own terms, and I want to integrate the lyrical expansion of hip hop in it. I don't want to rap per se. For God's sakes, I don't want to do some dreaded rap rock. But I want the lyric to just go as much as it goes. So I want to be more than singing. I want to spit bars, is kind of what I was really kind of getting at. And the first song that I wrote with the mindset that I am now third eye blind was a song called Tattoo of the Sun. And
okay,
it is the truth. There is truth in it of how I was feeling.
And did it also give you a drive, like an ambition, that everything you've just told me then about your upbringing and then what music came to mean to you? Was there did that give you a drive that I'm going to make music my life? This is solace for me, and I'm not quitting until I've done this.
I had a real drive for it, but I also had a desire to please my parents, and what was going on in the world that they brought to me, I accepted as what was. So they couldn't understand. I mean, they both individually went, being a musician, absolutely not. You should be a marine biologist. That'd be good. Do that, do something that we can understand. But I did keep coming back to it. And eventually I went,
yeah.
It was funny. My dad gave me a great piece of advice, and I've given this advice to other people, friends who are young friends who are trying to look at what they want to do with their lives, and they're 20, 22 years old, and there's so many things that I want to do. Well, people who are interested and people who are passionate are always passionate about a lot of things. What my dad said to me was, look, you're interested in conservation work, and you like being a writer, and you want to make films, and you want to do music. Pick one thing and do it fully and completely, and then go look at the other things that you want to do with your life from the perspective of having achieved that thing. And I went, that's good advice. I want to rock. And my dad, you could see his face going, no.
Choose one of the other things.
Yeah, but I did, and I chose that big vow of poverty, and to make all the time to do only what I wanted to do, only on my terms.
Right.
And that was a path. I think you're very right, and you actually pointed out this is something that never occurred to me. That was a path from a drive that came from being 10 years old and sitting in that hot room playing and playing and playing, because that was how I could hold my life together. which I did not. Of course, 10-year-olds don't know that. They just do it. They're just driven.
We have to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be back shortly with more from Stephan Jenkins. Welcome back to Humans of Music and my interview with Stephan Jenkins. I think one of the key things you said there about doing rock and roll is that you wanted to do it on your own terms. How easy or difficult has that been? Particularly when, because I've seen you talk about when your Day Then Third Eye Blind's first record took off.
Yeah.
There were things about the way that you were marketed as a band that you perhaps didn't understand or didn't see yourself in. So you lose an element of control when things get to that point. How hard has it been to do things on your own terms throughout your career, starting from that early phase?
Well, in the early phase, it was all very difficult. And now it's much better. It's way better now.
Why is that?
Well, there are fewer gatekeepers. So I never hear musicians talking about their record label, the record company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know who the presidents of these record labels are. And like back in the day, you absolutely knew who Tommy Mottola was and Jimmy Iovine and, Sylvia Rhone and all these, all the bigwigs, right? What's his name at Arista? They were
Clive Davis?
Clive Davis, yeah. They were these gigantic power brokers and egos, and they were geniuses and all this stuff, and you had to get to them, had to get their favor. And I never hear that anymore,
Right.
So you can SoundCloud that shit.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So it's vastly more democratized.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot more niches that people find the things that they love in. So that side of things I think is great. It's great for me too, because my audience continues to grow and it continues to be, have a very youthful energy because kids find it and through whatever file sharing devices that they're using. I think mostly Spotify, but YouTube and TikTok and whatever else, they just find music and share playlists and things like that. And so it becomes, they come into it and I continue to have a young audience. And I think that's incredible. So I really like that aspect of things now. But, God, the other side of it is, I'll give you an example. I did an interview probably in end of February, maybe beginning of March. I don't know. Something like that. I went and met a writer and we had such a nice time. And it seemed like this entirely authentic exchange where we're talking about music and culture. And interview concluded. And I thought that was no chore at all. I enjoyed talking to this person, right? And then you go back and in order to get clicks, there's this element of this kind of snarky shit that is required for at least they think, out of some kind of insecurity about getting clicks. So the other side of things that happen now are that there's I think that there is a clickbait culture that's I just find dishonest.
Yeah.
A wear down, really just a wear down.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were talking just about that idea of doing things on your own terms, and it's much better now. But back then, again, going back to the success of that debut record, and
Sure.
things get out of control. 6 million copies sold, and you've come from a place where you've been working for years to get to this point.
Yeah.
And you get that success.
Yeah.
Were there compromises that you had to make? Were there things about Third Eye Blind you saw out there that you didn't recognize?
Every video. Yeah. I watched them all and I just flatlined.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's not the, Third Eye Blind's weird. It's an indie rock band that has oftentimes has like a catchy tune in its head, but that's just kind of a camouflage. That's a ruse to get into a whole bunch of other kinds of landscapes and questions and narratives. And those ones don't really fit very well in any particular box.
Mm-hmm.
I get that it's hard to know what to do with it and how to define it.
Mm.
But the answer when you're on a major record label from the label is what we're going to do is we're going to define it in the way that sells as many records as possible in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of investment. We are going to maximize shareholder return, and we are going to ameliorate risk.
Right.
That's what we're going to do. And that's their job.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is not to cultivate artists. It's not. It's to make a good return for their quarterly investors, quarterly shareholders. And that's going to permeate from a record company into marketing decisions. And if you are that artist and your world is more complicated than that, you are going to get fuckarooed. You will not recognize yourself in your video.
Right.
I mean, the video for Semi-Charmed Life, I had written the treatment for it, and it was all kind of about, I wanted this kind of like Kennedy era utopia kind of ska world that had frozen and run down and become kind of corroded and have the charm was destroyed. That's what I wanted.
Mm.
You know, I got this like pink sweater walking up the street singing tunes. I'm like, oh my God, how does this happen? You know, the video for it, Never Let You Go, I wanted to make Never Let You Go, to me, was No Exit. It was Sartre. I wanted to make No Exit. I wanted to make Hell. I Never Let You Go, right, is kind of this, you know,
yeah.
For those of you who don't know No Exit, No Exit's about being in hell. And the whole point is that you can leave any time. It's that we make our own hell. We choose to keep ourselves in these situations. And that's what I was trying to make. And if you look at that fucking video, it's just, oh my goodness. Ugh. That ain't Sartre, you know? But they just got it. That just, I couldn't control it. And the president of the label was, you know, I was telling this guy, like, this is the edge I want to put on this thing. This is what I'm trying to do here. Then the president of the record label said, you can't have any suggestion of hell because then the record won't get played in the South, right?
Wow.
But she's writing the checks. So that's how it worked. Yeah.
And I guess is the payoff to that as you see the millions of sales rack up? Is that how you justify it to yourself? Well, it's kind of working.
No. I don't think that any of those, I don't believe any time that you come up short of your vision that's somehow going to, that means that you are going to sell more records. I don't think that's the case at all. No.
But you were selling records.
We were selling records, but I think that if we had done things, I think if they had trusted us to do things on our own terms, we probably would have been better understood, and it would have worked out better.
Right.
Because for a long time, I mean, now we've sort of become critics' darlings, but for a long time, I don't think that the critics knew what to do with us. Just had any idea. For not always. I mean, the Village Voice wrote a really great piece, and I got some really, really thoughtful reviews on Out of the Vein. But I think there's a lot of just like, oh, we don't know what to do with them. And it's because the way that the marketing, the sort of marketing sheen that was put on us didn't really tell the story.
Right.
But in the end, all of that fades away.
Yeah.
This is, let's just go back to now. All of that stuff, all of the marketing and all your whack video or whatever, all that stuff goes away. And what you're left with actually is a playlist.
Right.
That some 17-year-old kid found something in it that says, this illuminates what my now is. And I want to share this so I can connect with you through music. And they do.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now. And it is lovely.
Nice.
And I'm very, very happy to be at this state right now. These are the days, my friend.
Nice. There's one thing I want to ask you just about that your past before we get back to now, and it's actually coming from a fan perspective, is
Okay.
because you talk about that idea of people not knowing what to do with you, critics not knowing what to do with you. And I remember as a fan, like listening to the Blue record, for example, and I don't know if this was around the world, but in Australia, slow motion was on Blue. But when I look at streaming platforms now, slow motion isn't on Blue. So I'm not sure what's happened there. But
the record label wouldn't let us put it on there. We were censored by the record label in the United States because the chairman of the Warner Music Group lost their son to gun violence, and they thought that this would upset him.
Right.
So that was that.
That was that. Okay.
Slow motion is kind of my version of heavy drive-by rap. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm just trying to make that, I don't know. I think I was sort of angry at the time. There was a strain in rap. It was so violent and so misogynistic and so, but just you're so excited about it. And I guess because it makes you feel tough, or I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh, you want an amoral universe? I'll give you one. I'll serve it up to you. Just sweet as candy. Mm-hmm. I'll hum that in your ear, and I'll leave you destroyed. That's what I intended to do.
Yeah.
So I think of Iago in Shakespeare, and he's kind of just talking into your ear,
right?
Or like Richard III. Would you kill the bastard? And by the end, it's got this guy killing little kids, and it's just like the question of the song was, how far are you willing to go? And so in the end, I go, the joke's on you. So that was my point,
right?
In the song. But for most people, it's just like la 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 la.
That desire to, I guess, to push the boundaries lyrically is something that you've done from day dot right up until now. And I know you were speaking earlier about your father, who I believe was a political science professor. Did his way of looking at the world and his obviously interest in politics, did that rub off on you, do you think, when you think about some of your lyrics which tackle things such as, sexual abuse, homophobia, racism? They're all throughout your lyrics, throughout your career. Do you think that has rubbed off from your father's interest in the social conscience and politics?
Definitely. Definitely. Not in the way that you would necessarily think that it would. But my dad and I would talk about politics, and it was a real joy in my life. And when he died a couple years ago, it's something I truly miss. But he didn't understand the music I made and what I wrote and how I transformed it into narrative. Yeah, there were very few things that I did that he would. I remember there was one song, "How's It Gonna Be," when you don't know me anymore, and he was very taken with that line. Like it just struck him. That is a good question. He's going, all right, Dad. But I do think that he certainly taught me a lot about politics and theory and such. But I think I come much more from the things that make an emotional dent on me. Mm-hmm. And I've been given the tools to understand culture, in part from my dad. But a lot of it is just having that punk rock, fierce vulnerability. So I think a lot of it comes from listening to having sort of a punk rock mindset as much as anything else. Even though, I don't make 3-chord downstroke punk rock that much, but the mindset is there.
Yeah,
I think that's more where it comes from. About like a song like "The Kids Are Coming to Take You Down." Like that's about the Parkland shootings and how taken I was with the strength of those kids, like David Hogg. They were such powerful people, and they were so hideously misserved by the culture around them. Our culture of unchecked gun violence and violence glorification. And they were so powerful. So that's where that song is not an essay, and it's not a point of view. It's more about rage and victory. I'm beginning to think we're getting stronger. That's what it is.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, nice.
You don't have to know what it's about, and we don't have to agree on anything for you to feel it. And that's something I also think is kind of a real, that's alchemy right there.
Yeah. You mentioned when you were talking about Our Bande Apart that prior to that, you had a record that you had that you thought you would workshop while you were touring. Does that mean that there is an unreleased record or another batch of songs ready to go after Our Bande Apart?
I'm going to go into the studio back there as soon as we hang up, and I'm going to work on this new album right now.
Really?
So I'm actually working on, I'm writing a new album that hopefully we'll get to in the fall right now. And my keyboard guitar player, Colin, is here set up, and we're going to go workshop songs.
That's
right
awesome.
Now. And we also, for the 25th anniversary, we went out to a studio in Texas for a week, and we took a whole bunch of songs and we did entirely acoustic versions of them. So we have an album that will be coming out. It's finished mixing, so we're now just getting it, all the different songs to go to the mastering. The artwork's done, and we will have Third Eye Blind Unplugged Volume 1.
Wow.
In celebration of our 25th anniversary will be coming out forthwith. So there, I've officially announced it to you, Rod, the first time. If you care to know. Yeah.
Very last thing, Jaxsta is all about giving credit where credit is due. Are there people you'd give credit to for helping you get where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Tib Hodson was a teacher I had, and when I was struggling deeply in school, she really focused me, and she turned me into a scholar and helped give me the focus to get through this life. And I would sit there with my dad on his lap, and he would work with me and teach me to read. So there are those people who have a constancy, patience, and persistence, and I feel deeply indebted to them. And in coming together on this album now, in making Our Bande Apart, and the last to Dopamine and Screamer, it's there's so long in my life. There's been so much work to really find my people, and there's so many times, I think, in everybody's life where we have to make these equations with toxic relationships and then try to navigate them and manage them. And I'm at a period now where I'm going to go out on tour this summer with Third Eye Blind, and it's these 4 people that I love, and there's 5 of us, and we love each other, and we have and it's hysterical, and it's joyful, and it's passionate, and we get to share that. And I really feel grateful to these people, and making if anybody gets to watch this documentary that our guitar player Chris made called How We Hold Each Other Right Now, you really see how we all really work together. And that is that sense of collective. To the people in your life where everybody can take off whatever hats they're wearing and whatever credit they're seeking and everything else like that, and just let the gods come into the room and chase after it together. Gratitude to those people. I get to live in that state now. So, I've got gratitude to me mates.
Nice. Stephen, thanks so much for your time. It's been really great chatting to you.
Hey, Rod, I really enjoyed it.
And that's it for another episode of Humans of Music. A big thanks to Stephen for his time, and thank you for listening. If you have any feedback on the show or suggestions on who you'd like me to interview, or even if you just want to say hello, please drop me a line at humansofmusic@jaxsta.com. That's Humans of Music, one word, at Jaxsta, JAXSTA.com. This episode was mixed by Lachlan Mitchell from Parliament Studios in Annandale, and the incidental music and theme song were written and performed by Sam Lockwood. Please remember to subscribe to the Humans of Music podcast so you never miss an episode, or even better, share it amongst your friends and rate and review it. And remember, next time you need to know who wrote a song, who produced a song, who engineered it, who played on it, who sang on it, who did anything on it, head to jaxsta.com for all your official music credit information. Until the next episode of Humans of Music, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for listening.